Hello, it's Kelly again with Homesteading Hints, and today we're going to talk a bit about some of the harvesting of herbs, the herbs we harvest anyway, what we do with them, just different methods of harvesting and taking care of them. And we're also going to show you a little bit of our carrot harvest as well. So just kind of some of our early season stuff that is needing to be done. Some of it we've done already, some of it we will do yet. But in front of me I've got basil, which is one of the main ones that we use. We actually only use 3 different herbs mainly: basil, and we have parsley, and then we have some oregano over there. But mainly we use basil and parsley. It's what we like pesto a lot, which is a fairly easy thing to fix and keep. And so we use a lot of this on that, or we dry it, which is actually we use a dehydrator, which is our main method of utilization of the herbs that don't go into pesto right away. So if we're going to use it fresh, we put it in pesto, which is just a concoction of, it has olive oil, it has garlic in it, it has some kind of a nut. They say use pine nuts, but we actually use either walnuts or pecans. It has salt in it, and it has lemon juice in it. And we usually mix that up, actually put it in a puree blender and get it all pureed down, and then we put it in bags in the freezer. So it's a quick fix. You can just use these herbs as they're fresh, right away. You can do it with it, and we do that a lot with both basil and parsley. We actually have really good parsley pesto as well. I know a lot of other people use a lot of other herbs. There's thyme, rosemary, you name it, different kinds of mints, all sorts of things like that. We're not that much into the herbs per se, other than for pesto and in adding into certain things, that dishes, which is what we use the other method, which is actually drying. We put them in our dehydrator, and we put them on parchment paper, which actually works really well in the dehydrator. We go ahead and dry them down after you take the leaves off, and I'll show you that process in a second. But dehydrate them down, and then Libby uses actually a pizza cutter to go through and cut them all up into little pieces, and then we bag them and put them in the freezer as well, so they stay better in the freezer. Even though they're dried, they could probably be on the shelf as well, but if there's any moisture at all in them, you can still get some little bit of molding going on. So we just prefer to put them in the freezer. We've got a large freezer, so it works out well enough for us, and we don't have to worry about it. So those are just a couple of things, and most of the things that we use our herbs for. But I'll show you what we do when we harvest. Okay, so again, this is our basil, and this is one plant of basil right here. As you can see, I mean, it's definitely ready to be harvested. If we're going to harvest this, we would just grab it and cut it probably about right there above some of the smaller bottom leaves. You can see right underneath there. You can see them kind of in there. We would leave those so they would come back again, but we would just snip it off right there. And we have a ton to harvest, as you can see. They're starting to get the seed heads on them, which you don't want to have in your harvest. So you can just take and actually just pop them off like that. And you could keep these leaves if you wanted to, or get rid of them. But we snip it off like that as we're going, and we'll end up with a lot of pesto off of this. And it's a pretty easy harvest. As you can see, our basil looks pretty good. We don't have a whole lot of holes in it from anything chewing on it yet, and kind of glad about that, because the rest of the garden has a lot of stuff eating on it right now. We do have nasturtium on either side of it, and I think that may help a little bit. Nasturtium is supposed to help keep some of the bugs away, and it's either is working or it just kind of ends up that way, but it's working out for us, at least as far as I can tell. You could do the same thing with the parsley, which the parsley can get a little bit taller than this, but if we want to harvest it, and I don't know, Libby may do the basil first and probably will let the parsley go a little bit longer. But you just basically take the same thing and you get it down to where you can see some of the new leaves coming up, and you snip right above them and take that clump off the same way. And again, you can go to putting it into something fresh, or you can dehydrate it and put it in the freezer, or just save it for later. And as you can see, this is called knotweed. And actually, this is a weed that I actually like to leave, because the Japanese beetles like it better than just about anything else you can offer up to them. So if the Japanese beetles are eating this, they're not eating the rest of my stuff in the garden. I mean, there's some more knotweed right here. As you can, I mean, they like buttonbush, which is all, or buttonweed, which is also right here. So we have a few weeds mixed in there, but to be honest with you, the Japanese beetles kind of take to some of those weeds more than they do the other stuff in the garden. So if they want it, they can have it, and it's also an easy way to catch them to give to the chickens later on. If I'm walking through the garden in the morning and I knock them off into a bucket of water, I can just toss them to the chickens and they pretty much clean it up. So we will talk more about Japanese beetles next week. They are here, but they're going to be getting thicker, I'm afraid, but they're kind of just starting right now. So the concerns will be coming soon, and we'll talk about what we do to kind of keep them managed, I guess you'd say. They're a pretty big pest, probably one of the biggest ones that we have here in the state of Iowa right now. So we have just a way of kind of managing them and keeping them under control, and usually we can end up with some crops. It looks like we're still going to end up with basil and parsley. We're going to walk on down the way and check out the carrots. We're going to go ahead and show you a quick carrot harvest, or at least the start of one for us. They need to come out of the ground, so we're going to check them out. And you can see this is the second crop of lettuce that I put in that bolted before we could even eat any of it. So that's how that kind of ended up. Kind of a problem. We've got some potatoes there, and we still have our early crop right there of cabbage and cauliflower and stuff that we haven't harvested, and trying to keep the cabbage worms off them. So okay, so this is the carrots, and they are ready to harvest. As you can see, some of them are actually past harvest. If they get this on top of them, they're going to have a problem. This is a seed head for carrots, and once they get that, they start getting real woody. We'll pull this one out, and well, you can see this was one of the white ones. It doubled up down on the bottom, but it actually probably pushed more into the stem than it did the actual part of the carrot here that you want to eat. One of the good ones, though, this is a purple one. It actually turned out fairly good. We're probably not going to have a harvest of great big carrots this year. It really wasn't conducive to it. We got early dry, cool, then it got wet and was warm, and then it cooled down a little bit again, and now it's hot again, and so things are starting to bolt. So we're having to get them out of the ground before we start seeing the seed heads on them. Otherwise, these carrots won't be any good. This is how we go ahead. You know, this is a potato fork, which, you know, everybody would know as what you harvest potatoes with. I usually use this on the carrots because you can reach in behind them and just give the ground a pop. Our ground has a lot of clay in it, and it's somewhat dry right now. It's drying back out again. We had, you know, rains last week, I guess it was, well, or just over a week ago is when we had a bunch of rain. But the ground is still pretty moist underneath, but it's still kind of getting cloddy and stuck together. And if you try and pull them out before you pop anything free like that, you end up with a lot of broken off ends. See, here's another one that's, it looks to me like this was a mixed batch of carrots. It has the oranges, the purples, and all the colors in it. It looks to me like the white carrots are probably not one that we're gonna try again, because they are ones that seem to have bolted quicker in our garden. So yeah, we've got, and there's not a lot here, but we'll be able to save some of these. I mean, we've got, you know, a fair bunch of rows here to check through and pull up. I'm sure we'll end up with some a little bit bigger.
Well, and there's only 2 of us, so
yeah,
obviously plant
really
accordingly for your family.
But we got some neat, there's the orange ones there. And I would say, I would recommend, well, there's another purple one and some orange ones there. I would recommend you go through on anything that looks like it's bolting, like this one's just about ready to bolt. Another white one again, as you can see. These will get really woody once they bolt, and a lot of times you can tell right when you're cutting into them with a knife. If you cut into them with a knife and it's really hard to get through them, then they've already gotten woody and they're not worth saving. You can see these didn't go down into the ground as much as some of the others. You know, the purple one did a good job of actually looking like a carrot, but some of these others didn't. But carrots, we actually generally, we go ahead and we'll put most of our carrots in the freezer. We'll eat some fresh. We'll put the rest in the freezer, use them in whatever it is we want to use them in, or actually eat them just as carrots in certain carrot dishes that we have. But we usually just put them directly into the freezer. You can
Wash and chop first.
well, yeah, after you wash and chop. Sorry. So you wash them, chop them, put them in the freezer. You can go ahead and what do you call it? Blanch it first if you want to. We used to do it that way, and I mean it works and everything, and I would say it's just fine to do. But we found that this is a really quick and easy way. When we have so much going on with all the garden stuff, you know, the fruit trees, everything's always ready at the same time. It's kind of a pain. You get the house hot by heating everything up in there as you're cooking. The best method for us is to go ahead and put things in the freezer and deal with them after the garden is done, you know, in the fall. We do it with a lot of things. We'll do it with our tomatoes, where we just chop them up and put them in bags and put them in the freezer. And we'll use a lot of it that way as well. You can do the same thing with this kind of thing. If you blanch it, you won't have to cook it as long once you do take them out to cook them. If you don't blanch them, you'll have to cook them a little bit longer. We do this with green beans as well, where we put them in the freezer, and we tried all this last year on the carrots, on the green beans. I don't remember if we did cauliflower or broccoli, but we've tested all these out on these things just to see if it was simpler and easier way, and it has worked out for us and doesn't seem to affect, really, it may affect just how long you have to cook things, but other than that, it hasn't affected the texture or anything like that on them. So it works out well for us, and it is a nice way to kind of get things done in more of a stretched out manner rather than have everything piled on you at once. So that's our carrots. Had our herbs. Next week we'll be talking the Japanese beetles, and I'll show you kind of a thing that I basically kind of half invented. I saw some ideas on it and made my own version of a Japanese beetle trap that we'll use, plus other things to control them. So until next week, thanks again, and talk to you later.